What is going on, everybody? How we all doing today? Welcome to the Watchtower podcast, the non-Jehovah's Witness Watchtower podcast. Glad you guys could be here tonight. This is episode 115. 115. All right, so yeah, let's see here. I've got some new stuff going on here. Pretty much a lot of new everything going on. And so I'm not sure if the technical side of things is going to be messed up. So if my mic is all messed up, if it's too low, if it's too high, let me know. I will do my best to try and fix it. I was doing my best to test everything and make sure it was all working, but hopefully everything's running all right on that. So glad you guys could be here. Glad you guys could join me. And yeah, like I said, episode 115, this is called Babel X. Babel X. It's the name is interesting, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some stuff going on with the whole censorship and indoctrination and controlling the digital space. The UN released some stuff. There's some stuff coming out with the DHS and iVerify and all that stuff. So looks like you guys are saying it sounds good. So good. Glad to hear that it is sounding good. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on with that. So we're going to talk about that. But first, before we get into that, I want to get you guys involved. I want to see what y'all are doing here. So let's see. I'm just going to pick a random spot and we'll start right here. Kim's here. How are we doing, Kim? Marsha. Apparently Marsha is here. So hello to Marsha as well. Good to see you guys. Looks like we got Foxy Fair as well. Good to see you. We got Mama Ro, Rapture, but yes. Oh, I cannot wait. Cannot wait to go home, guys. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for it. Kind of new to this channel. Well, welcome. Glad you are here. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. Looks like Carly is here as well. Good to see you, Carly. We've got Debbie Mitchell. Good to see you. God wins in the end. I agree. Yes, he does. The victory is his. We got Pamela. Good to see you, Pamela. Kim, I said hello to Kim already. Good to see you, Kim, again. We've got DJ Betty Lou. DJ Betty Lou, good to see you. We've got Caroline. Good to see you. Not of This World is here as well. Ad Libby. Just Vicky as well. Coco Bear. Good to see you, Coco Bear. We got to get some pizza. That pizza tree is waiting for you up in heaven. Looks like Rev22. Good to see you, Rev. Kim, I just keep clicking on Kim. Hello, Kim, for the third time. Good to see you. We've got CDA Price as well. Good to see you. We've got Marie Hosier. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Christ for Life. Good to see you guys. I can't get to everybody. There's too many people, but I am so grateful for all of you. Glad you guys could be here. And our focus, of course, is watching the signs for the returning of our Lord Jesus Christ. That's why we do this. We sit upon the Watchtower, the true Watchtower, and watch for these signs to come across. So, and yeah, so we've got some stuff to talk about. But first, let's see what we got with housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
Housekeeping? Okay. So for housekeeping, not a lot, just the usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, and subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views. It's not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people, getting people to Jesus, and Jesus to people. That's why we do this. And liking, sharing, and subscribing does help do that. So I'd appreciate if you guys could do that. Also, follow me, Rumble Odyssey, Telegram. Rumble Odyssey, Telegram. They are my backup channels because I know I'm going to get kicked off YouTube one of these days, and YouTube is just annoying. I had a video I was going to play for you guys, but because of YouTube's copyright system, I'm not going to be able to play that video. After the show, what I'll do is I will post it on my Telegram, so that's kind of a offer, you know, if you guys want to see that video that I can't play because of YouTube, it'll be on Telegram. So if you guys follow me there, Rumble and Odyssey backup channels, I will stream to Rumble if I get kicked off of YouTube. Telegram, I just post anything in between, news stuff, funny stuff, hymns, exclusive videos and stuff like that, that I can't get to on the show and whatnot. So follow me there as well. And if I do get kicked off, that's how I will communicate with you guys to let you know what is going on with that. So, but that's it. That's it for housekeeping. Not a whole lot to housekeep, I guess. We'll just go with that. But yeah. So like I said, our focus is going to be taking a look at some digital stuff. The UN actually put out a thing called the, digital integrity, information integrity thing. It's a code of conduct basically for digital platforms. We'll get into all that and some other stuff. But before I want to do that, I do want to address one thing. I had a clip video come out today regarding Gnosticism, and it was talking about a guy, James Tallarico, who is a representative in Texas, and I had to delete 5 comments on the video from people who were just throwing blanket statements out there about calling these people demon rats and stuff like that. And I put a stop to that real quick. And even after I put a comment and pinned it on the video, somebody actually replied to that comment to continue pushing that narrative. This is what I'm talking about with don't get caught up in the political game. This is exactly why I talk about it, because your focus has shifted from, I need to show Jesus to these people, whether they're truly saved or not. I need to show Jesus to these people. It's shifted from that to, I don't like your political view, so I'm going to call you a demon rat, and I'm going to show you absolutely no Christ whatsoever because I don't like your political standing. That's the political game that I keep talking about. That is the shift of, you're no longer doing what Christ wants you to do, being a witness, shining a light, again, whether they're saved or not. You are now doing the work of what Satan wants, which is you're making a bad name, a bad statement under the name of Christ because you don't like somebody's political affiliation. And somebody made a comment and basically said, all Democrats are Satanists. Several comments put that out there because in a blanket statement, Democrats support abortion. Well, guess what? There are some conservatives, libertarians, and Republicans that support abortion. So if you're going to throw a blanket statement on that, well, if you're one of those, then apparently you also fall in line with that. It doesn't feel very good when you make a blanket statement like that, do you? I know, like I actually know somebody who claims to be a Democrat, and I know for a fact that they are dedicated to the Lord. That doesn't mean that they support abortion. That doesn't mean that they support some of this stuff. They just happen to align that way politically. But that has nothing to do with the fact that they are God-fearing, devout Christians. It's the same on both sides. And what you're doing is you are now, by making those claims, by throwing those names out there, anybody who, not only the person that you're directing that to, but anybody who views that comment that isn't a Christian, they're now looking at you going, wow, I don't want any part of that. And you now have driven somebody away from Christ. All because of the political game. Exactly what Satan wants you to do. That's why I warn about it. So don't fall into that. Don't get this programmed mindset that just because somebody has a different view on a political scale, that they are evil, Satan-worshiping, baby murderers just because they have a D next to their name rather than an R or an L or whatever. Just don't fall into that, guys. That's exactly what Satan wants. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't understand why that's specifically that video when it has nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with Gnosticism, but I don't know. But I just wanted to address that. I want to make sure everybody is focused on that and understands why we shouldn't fall into that. It's just not worth it. So just wanted to address that. Okay. Now that we've done that little powwow there, we had our little powwow. That's, every time I hear that, I just think of when I was a kid, whenever I was in trouble and my dad wanted to have a discussion about it. Whenever he walked in and said, we need to have a powwow, I knew I was in trouble. So maybe that wasn't the right thing, but that just brought back some memories. Yeah, we got to have a powwow. Yeah. Okay, let's move on from that. Let's go ahead and talk about what is going on with this digital stuff. What's going on as far as that. So it's no surprise. One of the main focus points of the elites is to censor, to learn, and to apply social credit score systems via this digital age, this digital platform. We understand this. Everything is going in that direction. And it's not just about full on just banning people, censoring and stuff. They are doing that. But a lot of it has to do with learning us, basically, because we've talked about the digital twin stuff. We've talked about all that and everything like that. But it has to do with learning us, as well as censorship, applying social credit score, keeping the narrative going and whatnot. It's actually a very complex system that goes along with it. I know a lot of people just want to say, well, if you don't say what they want, then they'll just ban you, which that's part of it. But for the overall scope, there's a lot more to it. It's pretty complex. But we're not only talking about this, but we are talking about the various ways it's being applied. So when we're talking about the complexity of this, when we're talking about all the different variations, I mean, we've been talking about this subject, 2 years? Basically since I started doing this thing. So about 2 years, we've been talking about the various ways that they've been implementing it all over the world. There's different programs, different organizations are putting it in, different governments are putting it in, all these different tools, all these different systems are all being applied. And it's just an ever moving, rotating system where if they drop one, they just apply a new one on top of it, and they just keep it rolling, improving it as it goes. So it just continues to go that way. The targets are what they deem as mis or disinformation, and now they've added hate speech. I know there's a lot of people that are like, what's the difference between mis and disinformation? Well, the UN released a document that they basically outline what it is. And we'll talk about that. I'll show it to you. But whatever goes against their narrative or their agenda falls under these categories. So if you're not falling in line, they are deeming you disinformation, or hate speech. So either way, you're being put underneath one of those columns. And you'll remember in 2022 at the WEF Sustainable Development Impact Meeting, because they can just never have any short titles and names of this stuff. There was a UN Undersecretary General, her name is Melissa Fleming, who admitted that they own the science. Now, I've played this video before, but I just want to give a little refresher in case you guys missed it. Check this out.
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it, and the platforms themselves also do. But again, it's a huge challenge that I think all sectors of society need to be very active in.
Yeah, so you can tell that, she plainly put it clear as day that they worked with Google to make sure that their stuff was put up forward or put up first, and it came to the top, so there was no misinformation or false information or fake news getting passed around. And they said they own the science. They want that to happen because they own the science. It's not truth. It's their narrative, and so they own it, and they want that to get pushed. So this online stuff about keeping the narrative going, about disinformation, fake news, hate speech, all this stuff has to do with the fact it doesn't have anything to do with truth, but it has to do with the fact of keeping their narrative going and learning who opposes it and who doesn't. And so they own the science and they own the narrative. Mis and disinformation has nothing to do with truth. And in June of this year, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres released a proposal for a code of conduct for digital platforms. Check this out. Our common agenda. There's your one world right there. Policy Brief 8, Information Integrity on Digital Platforms. So this was just released this month. You can see United Nations, and they got the SDG logo down there at the bottom. Now, the purpose of this policy... The present policy brief is focused on how threats to information integrity are having an impact on progress on global, national, and local issues. This is all about the fact of anybody who passes along truth is deemed somebody who is stopping progress. That's usually, I mean, that's nothing new. That's something that we've seen countless times before. If you don't follow along with what we want, then you are halting the progress. We need to progress forward. We need to be progressive. I've always taken the approach that I think we need to go back in time. I think we've progressed too far. I think we should just go back. You know, that's my thing on the church as well. I think we've gotten into a lot of trouble, and we see so many fallen and false churches out there because we've progressed with it. I think we need to go back to Grandma's church, personally. I think that's what we need to do. But that doesn't bring in numbers. That's boring for all these people. And so in our common agenda, I called for the empirically backed consensus around facts, science, and knowledge. To that end, the precinct brief outlines potential principles for a code of conduct that will help member states, the digital platforms, and other stakeholders. We see that a lot in this document as well. In their efforts to make the digital space more inclusive and safe for everybody, while vigorously defending the right to freedom of opinion, that's classic, and expression, and the right to access information. No, the right to access their information, because they own the information, they own the science. Code of Conduct for Information Integrity on Digital Platforms is being developed in the context of preparations for the Summit of the Future. We're going to talk about that. That thing is interesting. I want to do more information on it, but we're just going to kind of do a general scope of it. I do want to learn more about it. That thing is interesting. My hope is that it will provide a gold standard for guiding action to strengthen information integrity. It's just your propaganda. It's your follow along with what we want, follow along with our narrative, and we'll make sure that you are paid well. That's basically, because these briefs aren't for us. These briefs are for them. They just happen to post it out there for us to see. So that's what we see going on with that. Now, if we dig a little bit further into it, we're not going to read this whole thing. Don't worry. But you can kind of see they've got a little bit of definition, defining words on this. Misinformation refers to unintentional spread of inaccurate information. Just, if we're going to laugh a lot through this. I got to try and make sure I'm not laughing a lot, because it's straight propaganda. But they deem it, their definition is misinformation is the unintentional spread. Why they say disinformation is about the purposeful spread. So that's the difference between mis and dis on this. Is mis is, oh, I'm sharing it with the purpose of I thought it was truth, while disinformation is basically your intention is devious to actually put out false information. And then, of course, they got hate speech according to the working definition in the United Nations Strategy and Plan of Action. You'll notice it's always working definition. All of these things are working definition, which means they will change it at any time that they see fit. Kind of like what they did with the term recession. That's why I keep saying we're already in a recession, but they never say that we are, is because they changed the definition of recession. That's why. And so it's a working definition to them. So that's what they do with all this stuff. So that's kind of what I want to make sure you understand with what they deem as mis, dis, and information and hate speech and whatnot. So that's basically what they're pushing out there like that. So you're getting an idea of, you got to have the idea of what they in the terms that they think while you go through these briefs. Otherwise, you start getting confused. It's kind of like some people, and I've talked about this before, but some people say, why are these politicians so stupid when they're making stupid decisions and whatnot? Well, it's not. A lot of them, there are some that are just stupid, but there are a lot of them that aren't. And what they're doing is you have to take logic and set it on the shelf. And you have to start thinking in the terms of what they're trying to accomplish. And if you do that, it's not so stupid. So you have to do the same thing with these briefs. You have to take what we know as truth and logic and set it to the side and just go with what they're thinking. And it'll all make sense. It'll make sense of why they want to accomplish this stuff. So for the Summit of the Future, though, like I said, I just kind of want to go over a general feel of this thing. This thing is interesting. So if we take a look at this, I kind of like highlighted the bottom part there because it's really small. It says the Summit of the Future is a once in a generation opportunity to enhance cooperation on critical challenges and address gaps in global governance. We got a one world government coming. So when you see global governance, it's talking about all the different governments globally, obviously, but we know that that's going to form into a one world government. So that's interesting wording there. Reaffirm existing commitments, including to the Sustainable Development Goals and the United Nations Charter, and move towards a reinvigorated multilateral system that is better positioned to positively impact people's lives, building to the SDG Summit in 2023. Now, this thing is going to take place in 2024. So basically what they were doing with this is all these policy briefs that we're seeing. There's how many? I don't remember how many of them. I'll show them in a second. I've got them. But there's a certain amount of policy briefs that started in March of this year that are being released up into the point of this meeting that they've got going. And those will all apply to this Summit of the Future. And there's a lot of stuff going on with this. These briefs, we've talked about a couple of them. One of them was the complex global shocks, where it's like the one world police type of system, and there's other ones as well. This digital one that we're talking about as well is on there, but it's all leading up to the Summit of the Future. Everything seems to be pointing towards this particular event that's going to happen in 2024. And this thing looks like it's going to be the gas that's going to get thrown onto the fire, and it's slated again for 2024. That's the same year as the pandemic treaty and the international health regulation amendments that they're going to be adopted. So you're going to have in May, those get adopted. And I believe this thing happens in September of next year. And you're starting to see everything coming together under one roof as far as global governance. And so it's important that we watch that take place, because we know the one world government is coming. That's one of the pillars of the Antichrist beast system. And so this looks like it's going to be the fire that gets thrown onto that. So if we take a look at what they're calling their road map, or the road to the Summit of the Future, they kind of break down what we've seen so far and what's to come. So in 2015, the 2030 agenda was applied. That was the upgrade, so to say, from Agenda 21. And so that was adopted in 2015 along with the SDGs. Then in 2020, there's the UN 75 Declaration. We're not going to talk about that. Then 2021, the Our Common Agenda. That's these briefs that we're seeing. That's the new stuff that they're introducing. 2023, the SDG Summit. And then we've got the Summit of the Future, and then the Pact for the Future. The Pact for the Future. That's interesting. That's very interesting. What is going to be all involved with that pact? I don't know. They have not really given us anything on that. But could there be a peace agreement in there? Quite possibly. Something to think about. I'm not saying that there is. Don't get me wrong. But that's definitely something to think about as far as that. And this has been in the makings for a while, as we can see, pointing to being this being a pinnacle event for them. I mean, this looks like it's going to be a huge, world-changing thing that's going to happen in 2024. And ultimately, it's seeming to be a pinnacle moment for the beast system development. I mean, this is something that, we've been watching for some type of indication that there's going to be a coming together. And that's why we watched so heavily with the pandemic treaty, because when we were watching that, you're talking about all global health governance being put under the WHO, the WHO, all being put under them. And now we're seeing something happen with the UN with this Summit of the Future and the pact that they're talking about. So if we keep going and talking about this thing, work on the summit has already commenced in 2023. Now, right here, I just wanted to point this out right here. The Secretary General updated the General Assembly in August of 2022 and February of 2023 on progress relating to our common agenda discussing the summit. He will also release a series of policy briefs. That's what I was talking about earlier. That's what we're looking at here. Starting in March of 2023 in anticipation for the member states' preparations. So if we look at these, there's 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 of them. There's 8 on screen, but there's 11 total. We got future generations, the emergency platform. That's the one that we talked about with the global shocks. Youth engagement, beyond gross domestic product. Then we've got things like the global digital compact, the information integrity. That's this one that we're discussing now. And international financial architecture. You're starting to see the one world currency right there. You've got outer space as well. This is where we find things that we're starting to get an idea of some of these. We haven't discussed all of them, but some of them, like the global shocks, that's like your police force, your international financial architecture, that's looking at your one world economy, information integrity, that's the lockdown on digital platforms. Beyond gross domestic product, you're looking at the supply chain, things like that. You're starting to see everything come to fruition on what they're going to need to control the world. But it's the last 3 that really grab my attention. And I'm sure you can see why. Towards a new agenda for peace. New agenda for peace. Very curious. Especially since we know that the Antichrist, he's going to come in and he's going to seal the deal on a 7-year peace treaty. Then we've got transforming education, which we'll actually talk about a little bit of that at the end of this episode. And then United Nations 2.0. Just kind of makes you think, is that the beast system that's going to come? Some very, very interesting ones in there. And this stuff is supposed to be all adopted next year. Interesting. Now again, because I know some people are going to take what I'm saying and they're going to go, so your date claiming, you're saying that it's going to happen on this day or it's going to happen I'm not doing that at all. But what I'm doing is I'm watching. I'm looking at these signs and what they're pointing to. That's what the Lord tells us to do, because he knows, or he's told us that nobody knows the day or the hour, but we will know the season. And we're talking about a global pact of all the governments that's supposed to take place the same year that all of the global health governance is supposed to fall under the WHO. And then we're talking about peace. We're talking about the UN 2.0. We're talking about a world police force on it. We're talking about digital takeover. We're talking about a one world currency. All of this stuff is all falling together at the same time next year, which is exciting because that's telling us that we're in the season, that we're getting closer. We're that much closer to going home. And so it's something that we got to pay attention to, especially with this peace thing, because that's the big one. That's where the Antichrist is going to be revealed when that peace agreement gets signed, the peace treaty gets signed. He's going to be revealed. We're not going to be here for that. So that can't happen till we're gone. So that's why I think it's important that we look at all this stuff. So there seems to be a pointing towards that beast system, the Antichrist revealing the peace treaty, everything is pointing in that direction. And as Christians, we need to be focusing and watching that as it comes through. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look. Is that the right thing? Yeah. Okay. So that is the sum. Sorry, I've got a note here that I confused myself with my own note. Sorry. But so that's the summit of the future. That's a general overlook of it. All these policy briefs, the pact, the summit of the future, all of this stuff is all. I want to learn more on it. There's not a whole lot on the website. I'm sure they're going to add more to it, but this is just getting a general idea of what's coming up in 2024 along with everything. So I think it's important that we do that. So we're going to go ahead and get back to the information integrity code of conduct, that brief specifically, because we just talked about the summit of the future, but we're going to get back to this thing. And so if we keep rolling with this, and we take a look at their policy brief. That's not it. There it is. We take a look at this. We can see the monthly number of uses of climate scam on Twitter. So this is, they basically started going into all of the different variations of mis and disinformation. They have all these different charts in this document. We're not going to go over everything. It's like 29 pages long. We're not going to go over that. But they're talking about things like the climate scam. They're talking about things like the pandemic and all this other stuff. And if you look at this, it's a similarly mis and disinformation about the climate emergency are delaying urgently needed action to ensure a livable future on the planet. So what they're saying is people who continue to push the climate scam agenda, their mis and disinformation about it is delaying stuff. So like what we were talking about at the very beginning, when we were talking about you guys are halting progress, you guys are stopping progress with basically telling the truth about this stuff. That's what they're trying to put a head on. And so this climate thing, as we know, that's the big push that they're trying to make all this stuff go underneath. The SDGs and everything is all about climate, the climate religion, all of the lockdowns on food, all of the lockdowns on supply chains, all of the lockdowns on all this stuff has to do with climate. So if there's a whole bunch of people that continue to push this, as they deem climate scam hashtag on Twitter, what they're claiming is that's mis and disinformation that is halting this stuff. And it says climate mis and disinformation can be understood as false or misleading content that undercuts the scientifically agreed basis for the existence of human-induced climate change. Guys, we're the carbon they want to eliminate. We're the carbon that they want to get rid of. We're the ones that are ruining their planet, so to say. That's why you see so many different things. I'm not going to talk about it because that's what got me kicked off YouTube before. But you see so many things like the Georgia Guidestones and other stuff where it's all about we have to reduce the numbers, reduce the carbon, if you catch my drift. And so a lot of these things that are being pushed, I got to be really careful. A lot of the things being pushed is having various effects, whether it's from pregnancy and birth to just reducing the numbers that are already here. A lot of the things that they're bringing about and pushing forward is to hit that goal of fitting the climate stuff. And you're seeing even propaganda out there about how, just to put it lightly, death is a good thing because it will help save the planet. Just go take a search and you'll find a whole bunch of mainstream media that are pushing that agenda. And so when we're looking at this, I want to make sure everybody understands, yes, the elites are obviously trying to control the narrative. Yes, they're trying to take a hold of all the information out there because they own it. They own the science and all that stuff. They're trying to grab a hold of all that. But we can't lose focus of who is actually leading this. What is the actual agenda behind this? We understand the hatred of truth that the elites have, but that stems from the father of lies himself. He is the one leading this campaign because he hates truth. He is the father of lies. Satan hates truth and always goes to great lengths to suppress, but mostly alter it in a way where it's usually accepted. Again, we can go all the way back to the Garden of Eden. He took truth, what God said, and he just altered it slightly. And he got Eve to agree to it. And so, yes, he likes to suppress, but at the same time, one of his main goals is to take truth and twist it and use it for him, because he is the ultimate impersonator. He likes to imitate. And so his goal is to take what is good and twist it for evil, twist it for his own agenda. And so when we look at a lot of the stuff going out there, I'll take, because I know this is the big one right now, I'll take the stuff that's going on in Russia. Guys, I've seen, I don't know how many, like I don't know, I can't even keep count of all of the varying information about what is happening in Russia. Everybody has the answer. Everybody. You look at all of the different people that are pushing along information, they all have the correct answer. If you ask them, they know. They know. I know that this is what's going on. But yet, if you look at everybody else, they all have their own information as well that doesn't align with what this person knows, and they all claim that they know as well. It's deception. It's lies. It's changing the truth. We don't know what's going on. I've been asked several people, what do you think is going on? I don't know. I'm watching. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm seeing what's happening. I'm seeing all the various reports coming out. Some people are saying, hey, he said it was a coup. Then this person over here said, no, he said it wasn't. Then this person said, oh, the coup is over. Then this person said, oh, no, he's still doing this. I don't know. And what I'm not going to do is throw my hat into the ring with my own speculation, saying that, oh, this is what's going on, because I don't know. All we can do is just sit back, watch, and see what the outcome of it is. And something that I think that's really happening right now, all in the past week, we've had stuff come out about the Bidens. We've had stuff come out about Trump. We've had stuff come out about that sub thing, the Titanic sub thing. And we had this all in the same week. What are they hiding? For all of that stuff to get thrown out there like that in the same week, they're hiding something big. And something I always say, when the right hand is over here doing something flashy, look at the left hand that's over here really making the moves. And so that doesn't mean that we just ignore it altogether, but that doesn't mean that we sit there and focus solely on it and have speculation. Through all of this, my biggest thing is I'm watching Israel. Because whatever is going on in Russia is going to eventually play a part with Israel and Iran because of Ezekiel 38. And so I'm always watching Israel. I never know what's going to happen over there. I know I don't talk on Israel a lot anymore. I used to. But we've gotten to the point now where I don't feel comfortable talking about it because I don't know really exactly what's truthful going on over there. Because again, I'll look at 3 or 4 different people who report on Israel stuff, and they all have different degrees of what's going on. So there's a lot of deception. Satan likes to throw around a lot of deception. He likes to hide a lot of the stuff. He likes to tell you what's going on, but he likes to hide it in various ways. And so we've got to understand what we're going up against right now, which is a lot of lies, a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation. I'm going to take their words and throw it against them. And it's causing a lot of confusion. I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of chats start just getting super confused because they're getting told 5, 6, 7 different things. And so we've got to understand who we're going up against. The father of lies himself. And with this, when we see all these different programs, all these policies, all the different things coming together, this isn't just a power grab by money-hungry billionaires. This is a calculated and precisely constructed anti-truth program designed by Satan himself. Always remember, this isn't a fight against flesh and blood, but it's a spiritual war where Satan sees his time coming closer, and so his darkness is increasing. That's the biggest thing. I mean, we started out with it, with the whole political game, with all what the people were saying, demon rats, and leaving those comments and stuff. This is not a fight against flesh and blood. This is not, they're not our enemy. They're our mission field. And the same thing goes with all of this stuff as well. where he's constructing his beast system, which is a spiritual fight. And so that's why I go against, like, one of the reasons of many, I go against like this great awakening movement and whatnot. Their goal is, and it's mainly led by Dominion Kingdom now, where their goal is to fight the physical, to fight the flesh and blood, to fight the political game, to try and win that fight, which we know we're not going to win. We're not going to win that. The Bible tells us that that's not going to happen. This is Satan's time to come in. But in the end, God wins. While we're here, we need to occupy with the gospel. Our goal is not to fight this political fight. We still need to stand for righteousness, because I know if I don't say that, I'll get called out by people saying, "Oh, just go lay down and die." That's not what I'm saying. But our goal is to occupy with the gospel. Our goal is the spiritual fight. We need to focus on winning souls for the Lord. That's what we need to focus on. And so when we see all of this stuff coming online, all the digital stuff and all of the different governance stuff and everything, we understand that that's going to come to pass. We have a cheat sheet that tells us what's going to happen. We need to focus on winning souls for the Lord. That's what Satan doesn't want you to do. He wants you to get distracted and wrapped up in fighting the flesh and blood. God wants you to not get distracted, remember why we're here, and to fight the spiritual warfare by spreading the gospel to people so their soul will hopefully rest in the hands of the Lord. You see the difference? So don't get caught up, don't get distracted. We're still supposed to watch, but we need to remember what we're supposed to be doing. And so with that, we need to set our eyes upon the one who is in control of all this, and that is God. He's in full control of everything. I posted something on my Telegram yesterday where I said, the world is falling to pieces. Prophecy is falling into place. That is proof that God is in control of everything. I always love, whenever this subject comes up, my favorite analogy is from J.D. Farag, when he's basically just kind of making it. He's like, God's not up there panicking, pacing around like, oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Gabriel, Michael, get up here. Are you seeing what they're doing? What are we going to do? He doesn't do that. He's not panicking. He's not pacing because something happened that he didn't know was going to happen. No, he sits above time. The best visual is if you were to basically like take a look into the eyes of God, and you can see the timeline, time and existence sitting there. And he's just looking down at it. He can see the entire past and the entire future all in one go because he sits above it. Time does not work. He's not sitting in time. He's above it. And so he can see everything. He knows what's going to happen. He knew everything that happened before, and he can just sit there above it and watch it all. And how can you not just sit there and just be in awe of that, but also just, why do I have to fear? The Lord holds my soul, the one that sits above time, knows the beginning and the end, who can sit there and look at all of this, who's not surprised by anything. We should just be able to look at that and just rest. Not rest in the fight, but our soul should be at peace and should be calm and rested, understanding that our God holds all of it. He's in total control of all this. And it's always important to understand, as cunning, as evil, as sly and clever that Satan is, and we know he's going to have his short period of 5 minutes of fame here coming up soon. You got to remember, with all of that, Satan cannot do any of this without permission from God. He can't do a single thing without the permission from God. That should be a comforting thought. That should be, again, more proof that he's in control. Because all of this can't come to pass without God saying it can, without God allowing it to come to pass. I think that's just one of the most peaceful and calming thoughts that we can have. We know all of the evil that's happening in this world right now, but none of it can come to pass without the Lord allowing it to. So, with that, we now see the plan that they have for halting truth. So what are some of the ways of getting this online? We're going to look at a couple of them. One is the United Nations Development Program, or the UNDP I-Verify program. This thing is a beast of a program. Check this out. Supporting actors. They always use the term actors. I think there's a double meaning to that word, if you guys catch my drift. Using actors around the world for the prevention and mitigation of disinformation, misinformation, and hate speech. So there's those three terms again that were pointed out in that document. There's more of it being pointed out right there. If we keep looking at this thing, there's not a whole lot of information on it, but there's a few things that I think is important. Right here it says, understanding online information pollution is an urgent global challenge. Misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech threaten peace and security. There we go, guys. There's the peace and security again. If you're a Christian and you watch prophecy, you should know exactly what that's going to come, what that's going to turn into when they keep shouting peace and security. Sudden destruction comes. And hate speech, threaten peace and security, disproportionately affecting those who are already vulnerable. I-Verify is UNDP's automated fact-checking tool. Automated fact-checking tool that can be used to identify false information and prevent and mitigate its spread. It is supported through the UNDP Chief Digital Office and the UNDP Brussels Task Force, all that stuff. I-Verify is also a digital public good and can be found in their registry. I've got a little video of a breakdown of exactly what this thing is. You guys want to talk about propaganda? This is just straight up propaganda. Check this out. This is the I-Verify program.
It's election time, and I'm excited to vote. But how do I know I can trust the information I'm seeing online? That's where I-Verify comes in. I can ask I-Verify if an article is true or not. When someone messages I-Verify about a suspicious article, it goes to a whole team of highly trained local fact-checkers who check to see if the article is reliable. I-Verify also uses machine learning to check if an article has already been reviewed to avoid duplication. If an article turns out to be false, you know you can trust I-Verify. Because it's supported by trusted local organizations using this tool, UNDP developed to help ahead of elections. And when an article does turn out to be false, I-Verify lists it on its website and sends a notice to election officials. But I-Verify doesn't just identify false news stories. It also monitors social media for toxic content, horrible messages like these. What's more, I-Verify can monitor everything posted on social media in a day for toxic content. When it finds something, that also goes to the verifiers. Protected free speech and verifiable information are important to an election. So is civil discussion. I-Verify is working to ensure these rights are protected. To learn more, go to digital.undp.org.
Ay caramba. Don't know about you guys, but that is just garbage. So just a couple things. First of all, the name itself, I-Verify. You saw even the little icon at the end. It was an I. Have you noticed how many things have I in them? iPhone, was it the iWallet or something that's a part of that as well? You got the I-Verify. There's a whole slew of programs out there. Of course, none can come to my mind right now when I need to. But I know there's countless out there that all have I like that in front of it. Again, that's just another They like to do symbolism. They like to throw that stuff out there. It's part of the Luciferian cult. They are required to tell you what they're doing. And that's a simple way of doing it, is you just keep putting I in front of things. One I, the I thing. It's all there. But then you look at this thing, and it's AI automated that's going to scan through things. It's going to search through everything. And then they'll send it through their fact-checking team and whatnot, which we know that's not biased in any way. And it's just, you can see how it's the progression of all this stuff to control the narrative, to not only learn us, to study us, but also to control the narrative itself. And so they continue to do that. Now, if we go back to their website and we take a look at this, one of their principles things, multi-stakeholder approach. Again, there's your stakeholder again. They like to use the word actor. They like to use the word stakeholder. They like to use all this stuff. But it says combines strengths and builds synergies between actors. There it is again, from sectors, CSO, media, government, private sector, so all of the ones in control of this stuff, to counter disinformation and hate speech, and contributes to information, resources, and knowledge sharing. So they want to get all of those actors on board to counter disinformation and hate speech. Again, those are moving definitions. They're revolving definitions. They mean whatever they need them to mean when they need them to mean it. Yeah. You get my drift. So it just keeps going. Now, this iVerify program, so far, it's only been unleashed in Honduras, Kenya, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Zambia. From what we know, at least. So on their website, those are the only ones they have listed. I'm sure it's being used in other countries that they're not telling us, and I just have a feeling I'm not saying for sure, but I just have a feeling that this is going to be moving into other countries as well. Australia, Europe, Canada, America, Mexico. I'm sure it's on its way into those as well. But so far, it's only there. They love to test this stuff in South America and whatnot. So in Africa and all that stuff. So I can just imagine where this is going to go. And again, this program might be dropped and then just evolve into something else, which we're going to talk about now with a program that did do that, in fact. So here in the United States, we see the DHS project called Night Fury, which is a project that DHS uses to monitor social media users and assign them what they call risk scores. That's exactly what you think it is. That is a social credit score. This program began back in 2018 with a partnership between the DHS and the University of Alabama, Birmingham. And the goal was to assign risk scores, social credit scores, to potential pro-terrorist accounts on social media. So this is basically, they want to scan everybody's social media posts and then assign a score for those who are posting things that they don't like, basically. So this is, again, you're looking at a social credit score system for social media accounts. Another thing they monitored was disinformation coming from the accounts as well. So that also gets tacked on to that. Now, the thing is with this, and I've talked about this before, they said pro-terrorist accounts. Well, something you should know about the DHS is back in 2022, they put out a bulletin that deemed anybody who was promoting dis, or malinformation, there's one that we don't hear, is deemed a terrorist threat. If you don't believe me, this is that bulletin. This comes from the DHS, and it was issued February 7th, 2022, and it says terrorism threat to the U.S. homeland. Now, it's a little small, but it says the United States remains in heightened threat environment fueled by several factors, including an online environment filled with false or misleading narratives and conspiracy theories and other forms of dis, and malinformation introduced and or amplified by foreign and domestic threat actors. These threat actors seek to exacerbate, you guys know what it is, just roll with me, societal friction, to sow discord and yada, yada, yada. So basically they said if you are deemed a terrorist threat, if this is the stuff that you are partaking in. Now they said that this bulletin was closed out later in 2022. No, it wasn't. There's no way. If you guys know anything about these programs and these systems, what they do is they introduce it and say it's only going to be temporary, and then it just rolls into forever. So no, there's absolutely no way this thing stopped at that. And if you go a little bit further down, it says the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord and undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. You guys are well off doing that on your own. You don't need us for that. Continued calls for narratives or continued calls for violence directed at U.S. critical infrastructure. And soft targets, mass gatherings, faith-based institutions, etc., churches, synagogues, all that, and calls by foreign terrorist organizations to attack the United States. But basically, if you're passing along information, if you're speaking truth that doesn't fit their narrative that they don't like, then you are deemed a terrorist. So when you're talking about this system here, you're talking about this Night Fury program that goes through and scans everybody's social media. Anybody who's posting that is now considered a pro-terrorist threat, straight from the DHS. And if you notice, they're talking about foreign and domestic. Well, something that I don't think a lot of people caught is the fact that we've kind of shifted away from the Russia disinformation stuff. I mean, we're still seeing repercussions or news stuff regarding that, but they've shifted away from it's Russia that's feeding all this disinformation to now it's domestic. And if you don't believe me, here's a video that shows that switch. You guys got to check this out. This is insane. This is the switcheroo. Check it.
What the Russians have done is weaponized social media. The issue is not just the Russians, but frankly, domestic disinformation.
How do you think that they've weaponized social media?
Literally using it to manipulate public opinion, to put stories out that are biased or phony in order to drive public opinion a certain way. Probably more domestic generation of disinformation content that's occurring than foreign. Frankly, I think in 2016, it wasn't that clear that the Russian efforts, in terms of the actual persuasiveness of the content, was all that sophisticated. I think what the Russians may well have learned is they don't have to make the content up. We have people in the U.S. who will do it.
There's really two totally different disinformation attacks in 2016. The Internet Research Agency created these personas to take over existing groups in the United States. And then once they had established that, they would then try to push the most radical possible position. I think we talk way too much about foreign influence. I'm gonna be honest. I think we talk way too much about it because it's sexy and it's fun and it's a little bit Cold War-y. But the truth is that the vast majority of these problems, of kind of the problems in our information environment, are domestic problems. There are problems in how we interact with each other, of the norms that have been created about online political speech, about amplification issues, about how now politicians are utilizing platforms. And so I think we have like an 80-20 breakdown of 80% we talk about foreign and 20 domestic. I think that needs to be flipped.
The Kremlin's influence operations has a particular resonance for me because in June of 2016, I broke the story of the Russian hack of the Democratic National Committee. Even though I'm sort of a national security reporter and a little more focused on the foreign side, I think the most significant immediate threat to the 2020 election is the domestic threat, domestic disinformation, domestic influence, whatever you want to call it.
We are lost. It's just because of this little bitty pinprick that was put in by a foreign country. It's overwhelmingly more domestic than foreign this time around in 2020. They must wonder what they could possibly say that would change anyone's mind that's not already being said in the American landscape.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't catch it, when you're looking at 2016, 2017, 2018, they're all talking about it was Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. You look at specifically 2020, they flipped it and said, no, it's not foreign. It's us. We're the disinformation program. And so they shifted their narrative, which everybody started repeating. The DHS guy was repeating it. The White House correspondent was repeating it. All these different people and all these the CISA guy was repeating it. It was all the same thing. So you're looking at a combination of a narrative push, as well as the Mockingbird program and all this stuff, all to fit the narrative that they want. Remember, they own the science. And so you look at 2016, Russia, Russia, Russia. You look at 2020, it's us. We are the domestic threat because the information that we're pushing along is truth. And we're not buying the Russia thing anymore. And so they're doing this to push along their agenda, whatever fits their narrative, whatever fits their agenda at that time, they're going to start doing it. And so we saw that little switcheroo. They hate the truth. They absolutely hate the truth. They don't want the truth getting out at all. And again, the one leading all of this is the father of lies, is Satan. And he's going to manipulate and twist the truth to confuse and to push along what he wants to be done. None of which can happen without the permission of God, of course. Now, one of the goals of Night Fury was to automate the identification process, which points directly to AI. The DHS said that Night Fury stopped work in 2019. So they said the Night Fury project began in 2018 and stopped in 2019. But that doesn't mean that the goal stops. So like I said, just because one program ends does not mean that it didn't morph into another project. It didn't just roll into it. So all of that means nothing, because now we've got a project called Babel X. The name alone should give you goosebumps. Again, they like to always throw out these specific terms that are biblical terms that we will recognize. First of all, you look at Babel, Tower Babel. There it is. You look at a lot of language learning programs. A lot of them like to use one of them is called Babel. That's directly taken from that because the languages were confused at the Tower of Babel. And so you look at Babel, that should ring some bells. Then X. X is another one. X is curious. You see X everywhere. X likes to be used in a lot of things. And I've heard, countless ideas, theories of what it can mean. It could be anything from something in space to different gods have different names, to historical figures. X plays a whole thing throughout there. I'm not even going to pretend like I know what the actual answer is on that, because I don't think we have any idea what the actual answer is on that. But we know it's everywhere, and it's being used everywhere. And one of the big ones that we know is coming is Musk creating his X app. And when we look at all of this, and we look at all the social credit system, all the one world economy, the digital ID, and all this stuff, everything is going to need one system that it's going to run off of. And who's to say that that's not going to be the X app or the everything app that he wants to make? So you look at that, just the name alone, Babel X points to a lot of goosebump type stuff. But Night Fury rolled into Babel X, and Babel X is a tool that is an AI monitoring program that screens people and can link social media posts to their social security numbers and location data. I will say that again. Babel X is a tool that is an AI program, a monitoring program, that screens people and can link social media posts to their social security numbers and location data. Babel X goes deeper, and it is said to be used for travelers, but it is widely used across the U.S. government. So they say this is only for travelers, refugees when they're going in and out and whatnot. No, this thing is used across a whole bunch of different government organizations. Those who use it allows them to insert a name, email, or a phone number of a target, and it will bring back data on that said target that includes social media, IP addresses, employment history, and advertising identification connected to their phones. Check this thing out. Look at this thing. So if you put in the name, email, or phone number of a person, you can get back the following information: first, middle, last name, date of birth, their address, usernames, email address, phone numbers, social media content, images, IP address, domain information, social security number, driver's license number, employment history, location data based on geolocation tags and public posts, ad ID information, which is available through their Locate X, there's X again, program. So that is how they will be able to, just by social media, they can grab all of that information on you. Babel X is made by a company called Babel Street, which their focus is to obtain information in more than 200 languages. Babel Street is also connected to Rosette, which is a text analytics system where it can read varying degrees of all these different languages and can dig into the dark web as well. So it's able to extract information from those who use the deep and the dark web. Babel X also uses the AI power to apply sentiment analysis, or to put it simply, social credit. It will analyze the sentiment of what the post is and then apply a risk score, which is a social credit score. Using fake news or fake names and profiles online does not hide you either, as Babel X uses the ad ID system to break through that barrier. Now, what is ad ID? Ad ID is data attached to a user's device that is used as an identification tracker for your phone location and user movement. Every device that you have has an ad ID attached to it. You can't get rid of it. You can't block it. The apps that you use on your phone, apps that you install on your phone, provides data, including your location, and it will extract and attach it to that device. So if you have a device that's in your name, it doesn't matter what you do to it. If you try and turn it off, if you try and have apps that don't grab your information or anything like that, it doesn't matter. It's going to be able to geolocate your data on that device and attach it to your name. That's what that thing does. And then what it does is a lot of the apps will pull that data and then send it to a company called Gravy Analytics. Makes me hungry when I think about that. Gravy Analytics. Power your business with enterprise location intelligence. Gravy Analytics is a location intelligence company that provides enterprise-grade location analytics on demand, enabling your organization to gain the data-driven insight it requires to make better business decisions. Our global human mobility data powers cutting-edge solutions for a wide range of industries, from advertising to market research, financial services, to supply chain risk management, that rely on understanding how people, products, and materials move around the world. It always feels like somebody's watching me. They're always tracking you guys. This is why I keep talking about you just can't escape it. They know more about us than we know about ourselves. Gravy basically takes all of the data, boxes it up, puts a pretty bow on it, and sells it. That's right, sells it to companies and law enforcement agencies. So all of the data that it's extracting that you can't opt out of, they take it and then sell it to the highest bidder. The data you produce, again, creates a black market of buying, selling, and stealing your information. That's when you look at like the Internet of Things and all that stuff. It's the same thing. It's we watched that video last week. It was a cutscene from a video game where they were talking about it. And it basically, they blatantly put it in your face. The data you produce is more valuable than you, which is a chilling thought if you think about it. They do this, the selling and the buying and all that stuff of the data, because just like with FISA, no warrant is required, and it bypasses the Fourth Amendment, which is, of course, the unreasonable search and seizures and all that stuff. So because they're not doing it in the way that the Fourth Amendment protects, they found a way around it to skirt it. And so they're just collecting the data and then selling it to the government agencies and whatnot. Babel X has been sold, and this is what I'm talking about. It's not just for the travelers. Babel X has been sold to the U.S. Customs, the TSA, the DISA, the Coast Guard, Navy, Air Force, Army, Spec Ops, U.S. Marshals, FBI, State Department, and others. It's widely used across all of the government agencies. And it's always collecting data on us. But again, another comforting thought that I like to think about whenever I'm looking at this stuff. You got all Big Brother and Big Brother with their little brothers and stuff all watching us and tracking us and whatnot. You got to remember, we've got God that's sitting above all of them, watching them watch us. And he knows everything to the detail of each hair on their head. Again, God is in control. They're watching us, but God is watching them. So it's always something to keep in mind. It's a comforting thought, because I know a lot of people get freaked out when it comes to the tracking and when it comes to watching us and all that stuff. But it's such a comforting thought to know that God sits above all these people that are doing all these evil things. And they can't do any of it without permission from him. So why are we worrying? Why are we afraid of this stuff? We shouldn't be. I mean, it's not fun, having no privacy, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, seriously, like, what information are they going to get about you to worry about? I mean, I would hope, and, just sit there and just got your phone sitting on your desk, just start sharing the gospel, knowing that that FBI agent on the other end listening to you is getting the gospel. That's why we should be living for Christ. I think that's another element to all of this that we should remember, is the Lord is saying, always live for him, always share the gospel, always occupy. Be, when you do things like you're in private, do things in private, because when you're in private, you're technically not. They're always listening and always watching. So if you're doing Christ's work in private, for those listening, those watching, you never know what they might hear as well. So that's something to think about. And I know a lot of people might be thinking, dude, you're stretching, you're being a little crazy. Am I reaching? I don't think I am. Because the only people that see us when we're in private is ourselves, God, and, like I said, the FBI agent on the other end of your phone listening to you. Be doing the Christ work even in private. Something to think about. Just something to think about. So, of course, to continue this trend of people accepting these things and going along with the narrative requires conditioning and indoctrination. And so this is something that we've seen being pushed a lot with the schools, with the kids and everything. It's about indoctrinating the youth, getting them on board with what's going on. And so, if we look again at the policy briefs from when we started with this, I told you I'd talk about it. Transforming education. They've been doing a lot of varying things on education, but what I want to talk about is a policy brief regarding Education 2030. So this comes from the UNESCO, the UNESCO, and it's addressing conspiracy theories, and it's what teachers need to know. So this is about addressing conspiracy theories, teachers indoctrinating children. So by strapping conspiracy theory training onto the teachers, the goal is to train a child to avoid critical thinking and education exploration which allows people to think for themselves. I remember, well, not in public school, but when I got pulled out of public school and went and started going to homeschool, the goal was not to teach me everything in a book. That was something that my dad always instilled. My mom too. But the goal of my homeschooling wasn't to, I need you to learn everything in this book and then you're book smart and you can pass the test and then go out into life. No, something that my dad always instilled in me was critical thinking. You need to think for yourself. You need to be able to find answers. You don't want to just have book smart. You want street smart for the most part. You just need to be able to find answers. Don't listen to what the books are telling you. Don't listen to what the teachers are telling you. Explore. Education exploration is one of them. Basically the theme of that is, if you guys heard it, I think it was Mark Twain, who basically said, I never let schooling get in the way of my education. That's education exploration. And it's the idea of not being told what to think, but it's finding your own answers. You may have heard the term of believe nothing, question everything. That's also where that comes from. Obviously, you don't apply that to the Bible because that's the only truth that we've got. But for everything else, it certainly does apply. Believe nothing, question everything. Especially right now in the days of deception that we live. And so what this is trying to do is it's trying to, again, indoctrinate the kids by training these teachers in a way of stunting critical thinking, of stunting education exploration. We don't want the kids to be able to think for themselves. We don't want them to be able to find answers for themselves. We want them to believe exactly what you are telling them, because that's what we are telling you. And that's what the theme of this is. That's what they're trying to do with education transformation, is they're trying to make it so it's an indoctrination building. And we're seeing that already start to take place in most of the schools. It's pretty much got all of the public school, and it's getting a very large portion of the private and Christian schools as well. It's already got the colleges. The colleges, in my opinion, were the first ones to fall. Then came the regular elementary public schools, and now we're seeing the private and the Christian schools start to fall as well. And they're all falling in line with, don't think for yourself. You got to believe what we're telling you. And so if we keep looking at this, I've got a video. I'm not even going to explain it. It's from the UNESCO about this. Just watch it. We'll talk about it.
Conspiracy theories are not true. They come in coded forms and can be difficult to detect, yet they seem to be present everywhere, on social media, in the news, in conversations with family and friends. The best defense against conspiracy theories is knowledge. Teachers can help learners to be aware of conspiracy theories, their appeal and rhetoric, before they fall for them. Teachers can also help learners to acquire the skills to spot and debunk them. This task is not easy. Conspiracy theories are complex. They play with the human psyche and can shift entire worldviews. To address and counter them, teachers need to know what they are, how they cause harm, and how to discuss them with learners without amplifying them. With this knowledge, teachers can address the fears that may lead to believing in conspiracy theories, sensitize for prejudice and biases that fuel conspiracy thinking and hate speech, warn about their rhetoric and techniques, dismantle the flawed logic behind them, and engage with learners and colleagues who are misled without pushing them further away. You can prevent the spread of conspiracy theories and the harm they cause.
Oh my. I mean, talk about propaganda, just like the I Verify video that we watched earlier. I mean, you guys want to talk about propaganda. There we go. It's so ridiculous. Sometimes I can't believe just how blatant they are with this stuff. I truly can't sometimes. It's unbelievable. But yeah, you can see exactly what they're trying to do. It's all about stunting the conspiracy theories, which we know that those are just spoiler alerts. We're batting pretty much 900. And of course, we know conspiracy theory, that term wasn't invented until right after the CIA killed JFK. And it was a way to stop people from trying to question the narrative, because that's what they do. So that's where the term conspiracy theory came from. But this is the globalization of education through the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. This is about creating a global schooling environment that's about indoctrinating a child to not think for themselves. And they go through 19 pages of a document, making sure teachers are equipped to eliminate self-thinking to make sure the youth fall in line. We're going to look at a few of these pages. We're not going to go through everything, but there are some things I want to point out. This is right off the bat in the introduction. Conspiracy theory, right there. The belief that events are being secretly manipulated by powerful forces with negative intent. Typically, conspiracy theories involve an imagined group of conspirators colluding to implement an alleged secret plot. Da-na-na. Yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing. I mean, they described exactly what we're seeing. Simple as that. Then it says conspiracy theories can be found virtually everywhere, even where you would least expect them. BBC News reports, for instance, revealed that presence of conspiracy theories on non-English language Wikipedia enables entries on climate change. The online encyclopedia is one of the world's most visited websites. Guys, don't ever, and I'm going to make sure you get, don't ever, and I mean ever, get any information from Wikipedia. None of it. Don't believe a thing that you read on there. Even if you're looking up the recipe on how to bake a cinnamon raisin bagel, don't go to Wikipedia. That website is it is one of the most viewed websites in all of the internet, but that website is 100% controlled. There's no good information that you guys want on that website. I get none of my information from Wikipedia. Don't get anything from that website. And if you're watching somebody or listening to somebody where they get their information from Wikipedia, I'm not going to say just completely run away from them, but I would not be trusting on whatever they're saying, because that's not information that you can trust. Just don't. Avoid that website. It is not good. That's specifically why I wanted to point out that box right there, was because I don't want anybody getting information from that terrible website. Let's keep going. Right here, we're not going to read the whole thing. I just got the thing right here. Consequently, action is needed to minimize the damage caused by conspiracy theories. Okay. One important step is raising awareness and developing people's critical thinking. So this is what I'm talking about, where it's like flipping it on its head, turning it around. They think critical thinking is going along with their narrative. Critical thinking is not going with conspiracy theories, when in actuality, conspiracy theories is critical thinking. It's looking at something and realizing something doesn't add up, and then going and seeking out the truth on the matter. And what they're saying is, no, that's not critical thinking. That's a conspiracy theory. Critical thinking is just going along with the narrative that we tell you. We own the science, remember? So that they are less vulnerable to being misled. Educators, whether in formal or non-formal education, can play an important role in preempting conspiracy theories by alerting learners and their existence building learners' resilience to techniques and rhetoric commonly used to spread them, and by equipping them with media and information literacy competencies. Wow. Sorry. Education can also help to limit the dissemination of conspiracy theories by responding to them when they are shared among learners or within the wider school community. So this is about, again, trying to find various ways to eliminate the way for students to use critical thinking, to think for themselves, and to dive into education exploration. They do not want that at all. Now, if we keep looking at this thing, they've got their own definitions for the stuff. Misinformation is false or misleading content shared without harmful intent. So this is the same thing as the other document. Disinformation is false or misleading content that is spread with the intention to deceive. Then there's hate speech, which can be any kind of communication and speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses predatory, discriminatory language with reference to a person or group of the basis. So basically, it's just, you're racist. That's what that is. And then they've even got fake news in there. It is defined as a subset of disinformation that is false or misleading information presented as news. It's amazing how that term started becoming popular when a certain president started using it. Just throwing it out there on that one. Now, if we keep going, they got a little table here about conventional thinking and conspiratorial thinking. Now, if we look at conspiratorial thinking, I just wanted to point this out because I think it's funny. So there's the suspicion of birds are everywhere. What if the government manipulated them to spy on me? Nobody would notice. Okay, so before we even go any further, little interaction. If you guys want to throw it in the chat, how many of you have ever heard of the conspiracy theory of like the birds aren't real? They're all government-controlled entities that are built to spy on us and whatnot. I'm sure somebody has heard that before. So if you guys have heard that, throw it in the chat, thumbs up, whatever. Because I want to see how many of you actually have heard this before. Yeah, I'm already seeing people that are saying, yep. So I find it interesting that they chose this specific one. And they're talking about that the government basically owns them. What if they're actually robots and whatnot? And they're saying that that is a ridiculous conspiracy theory. But my thing of, and I'm not saying, okay, just because I already know somebody's going to take what I said and run with it. I'm not saying all birds are fake. I'm not saying that. But conspiracy theories, again, got this one right. If you don't believe me.
The whole concept behind the roe bird is that it actually mimics real life. So the idea behind it is that this is a peregrine falcon, and the peregrine falcon, especially for birds, is the most feared predator. So the whole idea behind it was, instead of using a quadcopter or a rotor-style drone, they tend to habituate to those types of drones, even pyrotechnics. Most of the bird scaring tactics that are used today are really, they're short-term. So the whole idea is that the roe bird.
Again, conspiracy theory nails another one. Now, it's not as ridiculous as all birds are manipulated by the government, but they've got drone birds built to spy on us. Now, that's a plastic one. Well, they've also got ones that are, we talked about this one months ago, but I just wanted to bring it back up. They've got birds, drone birds built for spying, made from actual dead bird parts, taxidermy. This is a real thing. And again, the conspiracy theorists are right, even on something like this. It is absolutely insane. I mean, you look at this thing, and it's built from taxidermy, like real birds, and it's drones that can spy on us. A team of researchers has successfully developed drones from the bodies of stuffed birds. It's right there. So again, just this idea that conspiracy theories are, it's It blows my mind, guys. And there's other ones out there too. They've got bees that can carry stuff. I don't want to get into all of that stuff, but they're trying to replace real bees with these drone bees. They've got mosquito stuff. They've got other insects that can do the same thing. But I mean, birds, yeah, it's real. So I just find it interesting that was the conspiracy theory that they specifically decided to latch onto. In the document, they also mention other specific theories, like they mentioned the Plandemic documentary. They mentioned the Amazon forest fires in 2019. They mentioned 5G, 9/11, and my favorite, they mentioned Michelle Obama is a lizard person. Yeah, so they specifically mention all those in the documents as well on that one. But one place that I think is very important, especially for all you parents out there, just to see what's going on in the classroom. I know there's a lot of information about all the other stuff going on, but I just want to show you about this specifically. They're trying to place the blame on the parents. So they got the belief in a conspiracy theory rarely comes out of nowhere, especially young learners are likely to repeat what they hear at home or from close peers. At home, they're blaming you, the parents. This is an additional challenge. For example, teachers addressing the QAnon conspiracy theories in the United States reported that QAnon was a psyop, by the way. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a psyop. In the United States reported that conversations around the issue disrupted parent-teacher relationships and led to assumptions that teachers were a part of the liberal elite, making it more difficult to change their students' minds. Yeah, because the whole goal as parents, or the whole goal as teachers, is to make sure you're not learning from your parents. No, you need to be learning from them and them alone. And they're definitely not liberal elite, of course. Should this be an issue, teachers may ask their supervisor or school director for support through a mediated conversation with parents. This, again, should come as no surprise, the attack upon parents, and they're trying to remove all rights from the parents. And so this is another one that they're placing blame on the parents. If your kid goes to school and starts talking about a conspiracy theory, it's your fault, and the teacher is supposed to take action regarding it. And just to finish this document off, they talk about different types of indoctrination games and pre-bunking apps for the kids. One is Cranky Uncle, which teaches players how to identify misleading rhetorical techniques and misinformation and all that stuff. And then they've got the Cambridge University's Go Viral game. Raises awareness about some of the most common strategies used to spread false and misleading information about the COOF. These are legit and real things. There's Cranky Uncle versus climate change. Cranky Uncle regular misinformation game. Then there's Go Viral. They are actually out there. So if you're a parent and you've got a kid who has a phone or goes online, an iPad, whatever it is, a screen of some type, be very watchful of what games they are playing. It might look cute, it might look funny, might look entertaining, but you have absolutely no idea what is getting fed through it. So be very, very watchful. Not only the TV and the internet that your kids are watching, but whatever games they're playing on their phones as well. Because there's a lot of this stuff out there. A lot of this stuff out there. All of this is more than trying to push their agenda and their narrative. This is because the one that leads them hates and despises truth. The father of lies is the one behind this. And that's why we don't see an overwhelming just slam on just blocking, banning, and censoring everything. It's because he's using a lot of this stuff to his advantage to try and bring in his agenda, but also twist the minds of others out there. He wants to silence it, but he also wants to alter it, to pervert it, to twist it, so he can use it. That's something that Satan does. He's the imitator. He likes to turn good evil and evil good. He likes to use truth to his advantage to make it sound like it's truth, but he alters just a little bit of it to make sure that people aren't falling in line. We see this all the time in churches with the false gospels that are being presented out there, where they're utilizing a whole truckload of truth, but they're twisting certain things that make it sound good, that then take it from the good news, the true gospel, the true Jesus, and turning it into a false gospel, bad news, and a Jesus that cannot save. And that little twist, that little difference, changes all of it. And so we got to understand this full court press upon us with this false narrative, again, using their own terms against them, this mis and disinformation that they're pushing to fulfill this agenda, the stuff being led by Satan. There's only one counter that we have to that. Because just like we talked about with the Russian thing, what may look like truth, we may be out there saying, oh, well, I know this is fact. Are you sure? We can't trust anything going on out there with the news. Don't trust me on any of this stuff. Seriously. Don't trust me. Go and search it out yourself. But remember, even if you find the information that I present and you find maybe more information that I didn't talk about that may seem like that's really what's going on, we don't know for sure that it's truth. We don't know. Even though we just read straight from the document that they put out there, we don't know that that is true. We don't. The only thing that we know is true is the Bible. That is the only thing that we can hang on to now. That is the only thing that we know for sure is 100% truth, that no matter what, we can hang on to. We can hang our hat on that because His word is living truth. God is truth. And God is the Word. So we have nothing to worry about. We can put all of our faith in that, knowing whatever that book says is true. And that includes the gospel that's presented in there, the life story of the Lord Jesus Christ, and what He did, and how He did it, and why He did it. So if you don't know the Lord, and you're confused, you're deceived, you're falling into the lies of what Satan is pushing, not only in the world with all the things that we see going on there, but if you're in a church that is also peddling these lies, peddling a false gospel, a Jesus that cannot save, I urge you to read the true story in Scripture and follow the one true Jesus. And His gospel, He makes it so easy. A childlike faith, a childlike trust in Him. And He makes it as simple as ABC. A is that you admit that you're a sinner, that you fall short. You come to the Lord with a repentant heart, knowing that you do not meet the requirements needed. And so you admit that you fall short. You admit that you need Jesus Christ as your Savior. B is you believe in Jesus Christ. You believe in the Lord. You believe that He is the one and only Son of God who came down 100% man, 100% God, lived a perfect life, and then He died on the cross, and defeating death, He rose again on the third day. For whoever believes in Him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now, this is not something where you just read the story and you know it. This isn't just you recite some prayer that somebody tells you, oh, if you recite this prayer, you will be saved. No, this is between you and God, and it is true belief. Knowing and believing are two different things. This is true belief. So if you truly believe in the Lord, He will save you. And C, as you call upon the Lord, I always attach it as the prayer that you say to the Lord. We say, Lord Jesus, I know I fall short. I know I have messed up and I have sinned. And I need You to save me. I know that You came down and You died and rose again for me. Lord Jesus, save me. And if you come with a repentant heart and you truly believe in Jesus and you call upon him, he will save you. And not only do we have the Bible, but you are now sealed with the Holy Spirit, who will help you along the way with discernment of what is true and what is not. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to fall for things. We all do. But if you pray for increased discernment, you will be amazed at the difference of traveling in these days of deception. With that, with him, with you, it makes all the difference. But guys, right now, the only thing that we can trust in is Scripture, is the Bible. Hang on to that. And as we watch all of these things come to pass, all start to come together, especially that summit for the future that comes with a pact in 2024 that's mentioning peace and a UN 2.0. We're in the season that the Lord's going to come and get us soon. Amen. All right, guys, that's all I got. That's everything. Thank you for joining me on Saturday Night Live. Glad you guys could be here. So thank you for showing up and being here, especially on a Saturday night when we got church tomorrow. Get to church tomorrow, you heathens. I'm not going to keep you guys here any longer. So usual spiel, if you guys can, like, share, and subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. Not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people, getting people to Jesus and Jesus to people. That is why we do this. So if you guys can, like, share, and subscribe. Also follow me, Rumble, Odyssey, Telegram. My backup channels, when YouTube kicks me off, it's going to happen. I'm going to get the boot. I know it. So if you guys can, follow me there. Rumble will be the backup streaming channel. So if I'm just not on YouTube one of these days on a Tuesday or Saturday, try my Rumble channel. I'll probably be there. And then Telegram, I will let you guys know what's going on. News stuff, memes, hymns, anything in between. I throw it on there. So follow me there. I will post that other video that I was going to share on Telegram. So make sure you watch out for that. And then also, if you guys want to support this ministry, if you guys want to help keep this going, keep it going, get bigger, all that stuff, all in the name of the Lord. If the Lord places it upon your heart, I've got donation links down below, CashApp, Venmo, Give, Send, Go. I appreciate all of that. I truly do. Also, I accept prayers. I covet your prayers. So thank you for those who pray for me. I truly appreciate it. And I think that's it. So make sure you guys get to church tomorrow, whether in person, online, doesn't matter. Get to church. And if the Lord does not come back by Tuesday, same time, same place, I will catch you guys here. All right. Peace out. Maranatha.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.